this lesson we're going to be applying the order of operations to our integers. So this page and the next page have lots of examples. We're going to go through a couple that might throw you off, just make sure we're all on the same page. I'm actually going to come back to number 1, maybe not the first example we should really be looking at. Let's look at a problem like number 2. So in number 2, I see multiplication happening here and addition happening here. If you're in doubt, if you've forgotten the order of operations, remember the order of operations are parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, PEMDAS. I'll make one revision to that later on when we come to that situation. So parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, and we have to go in that order when we're evaluating problems. So we look, are there parentheses? Nope. We look, are there exponents? Nope. Is there multiplication or division? Yes. Remember, those can kind of go in either order. So we have to do the multiplication and division before we can do the addition and subtraction. So do not add 5 plus 9. That's wrong. We have to do negative 3 times 5. So that gives us negative 15. Now, we are going to be stressing that you keep your work orderly. So I wrote the result to that below, and I'm going to carry down the plus 9 here. You'll kind of notice you almost look like a funnel. We were like 3 numbers across, now we're down to 2 numbers across, and we're going to funnel down further. So now we're ready to do the addition and get our final answer, and so we get negative 6. So we kind of got this funneling effect. I don't care if it makes a perfect V or if it's a line slightly off, but we want to keep each line is equivalent. In the first row, the value of that is negative 6. In the second row, the value of that is negative 6. In the third row, of course, we get negative 6. So make your work orderly. I don't want to see scratch work off here to the side. I mean, you should be able to put all that together in one step. Okay, now let's go ahead and come back to number 1. So I do see parentheses first. So that's going to be the first stop on our journey, is to do the parentheses. And inside there's a whole bunch of fun for us. So let's take this double sign minus a negative and let's rewrite that as a plus. So we have negative 8 plus 5. So inside parentheses we have negative 3. And then we have that to the third power. Now I left the parentheses because of the exponent there, but really we've done everything inside the parentheses. So we have kind of crossed the P off of our list. So now we can move on to exponents. So we're taking negative 3 to the third power. That means multiply negative 3 by itself 3 times. From our work on multiplying and dividing with negatives, we know that because the exponent is negative, our answer is going to be negative because it's going to be an odd number of negative signs. And so we need to think 3 times 3 times 3 is going to give us 27. Great. And we should go ahead and be circling our answers or boxing them in, however you want to do that. That helps me find those. Okay. 3 and 4 are pretty straightforward. You do have to do the absolute value first before you can multiply. That kind of is like the parentheses, and for that reason sometimes I actually like to choose to call this acronym GEMDAS. And GEMDAS, the G stands for a group. And so there's other groups other than parentheses. Absolute value signs would be another way of grouping things together. So we do the absolute value of negative 6 to get 6, and then I hate the X there, but they raised it. This is not a variable, that's the multiplication sign. So 6 times negative 10, and now we can go ahead and multiply those to get negative 60. Great. Okay, in number 5, there's definitely an easier and a harder way to do this. It's set up to be division first a little bit more than the multiplication. You could have done the multiplication first because multiplication and division can go in any order, but it does make more sense to do 10 over 2, 20 over 2 to give you 10, and then multiply that by 2 to give you back to 20. Now, that's all well and good. At the same time, you could have seen that I have multiplication by 2 and division by 2. Those cancel. There's my answer, staring right at my face. Okay, so things to think about as you go along. Okay, number 6, kind of like number 3. We've got an addition situation and a multiplication situation. So some students will be thrown off by seeing the multiply and then this negative sign here. Because this is a multiplication, that's telling us that between these two problems, it's multiplication. This 6 should be thought of this as a negative 6, not a subtraction 6. You know, we can't multiply and subtract at the same time. So this negative, this dash must really be a negative sign. So we're going to do these two first to get our negative 54. And now we've really got like 8 plus negative 54. And really, as you get better at this, you will realize you didn't even really need to write that. You can combine those signs right away to do 8 minus 54. And so 8 minus 54 is going to be negative 46. Okay, that's going to be our final answer. Okay, now what about number 7? Number 7, I know it kind of looks like a fraction, but we're going to really drive home that this bar It's a fraction, but that's also division. So we're dividing here. We're doing 15 divided by -1 minus 2. Now, if we go back to our acronym, GEMDAS, I know multiplication division happens before addition and subtraction. So some students might think 15 divided by, what should I divide by? There's two things down here. Maybe I'll just divide by the first one. Well, that's actually missing a bigger problem here. And again, this is why I like the G better than the P, because there's many kinds of groups. We talked about parentheses, of course. We talked about absolute values, another group, but also a numerator or a denominator can be a group. In the denominator here, we've basically got some kind of invisible parentheses, an invisible group down here. So the denominator here is a group, and we are going to follow the order of operations and do that first. So we have 15 as our numerator, -1 minus 2 is -3. Now this makes much more sense. Now we've gotten rid of this addition and subtraction. It was inside of that group, so that's why it actually happened first. We have to go inside the group, do anything we see inside there first. Now we can do 15 divided by -3, and we'll get -5, of course. Okay, so that'll same thing will apply in number 9. You're gonna have to do the entire numerator before you can divide it by the denominator there. Okay, let's look at number 10. I see two groups here, and really it doesn't matter which group you do first. You have to just kind of work in this group, get its answer, work in the second group, get its answer. So -8 minus a -7, we can make that a plus, and so -8 plus 7 is going to give us -1. I'm going to throw that in parentheses just to keep intact the fact that we're going to multiply here in a second. And I can do over here -4 minus a -8, that's plus 8, so -4 plus 8 is +4. All right, now we've got two to multiply, two numbers to multiply. A negative times a positive is a negative, so -4. Great. Sometimes a problem like 12 can throw people off. You can make that into a plus and recognize you have to do the 5 times 3 and the 4 times 9 each first before you can add them across to each other. Watch out for this problem here because you have to consider this a group. But what I really want to focus on is number 14. Sometimes students, when they only see one number next to a parentheses, they don't interpret that as multiplication. So that is multiplication again. So let's work inside the parentheses here. Inside the parentheses, we have really subtraction and division. So we are going to follow the order of operations. Within the parentheses, we're going to do the division here. I'm going to copy everything down. 7, parentheses, -4. I'm going to have this minus here. 21 divided by -7 is -3. Close my parentheses. Now, you might have been able to quickly see that that was going to be a plus. I'm going to just rewrite it here, going slowly, step by step. Okay, so those two became a plus sign, and now I can work inside here and say we have 7 times -4 plus 3 is -1, and 7 times -1 is -7. Great. Okay, let's just scan for any other problems that might come up. Boy, doesn't 19 look fun. Let's check out that one. All right, so I see a lot of parentheses. I see parentheses inside of parentheses. So we want to go into the very middle of all our parentheses and kind of work our way out. So inside here, in these very inner parentheses, I just see a -7. We can't really do much inside there, but the next thing we can do is kind of work out and do the squaring the exponent of 2 there. So -7 to the second power is -7 times -7, or +49. I'm going to throw it inside the outer parentheses there, and then I can do this kind of at the same time. While I did that work there, I can do this parentheses. 6/3 gives me 2. Okay, we've got those both in parentheses. Now we can multiply them to get 98. Okay, so there's lots of problems to continue to try and practice, and we'll definitely have problems of this complication and even, a little bit harder on the next worksheet, but you've got all the skills to apply to each of these situations to get the correct answer. So have at it.